Hi. My name is Atia, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Brothers Geek Out podcast. They're my brothers, and they need to change the name to Brothers and Sisters podcast.
They do, don't they? I
Yeah,
think so.
they
I think
do.
they're, well, sisters and brothers, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, oh my God, first of all, I would just want to say congratulations on the film.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it really pulled me in. I wasn't expect to be thinking about it days after.
Mm.
Um, Great cast, storyline was amazing, and yeah, I can't wait for it to come out and watch it with my dad because it's definitely his kind of
Oh,
film.
yeah. Good.
Yeah, so it's on the list. But I'm gonna get straight into it, not
Jump
take too
in.
much. So yeah, this is your first feature directional debut. After a body of work in music videos, commercials, photography, and fashion film, what were the biggest challenges or surprises in going from a shorter form to a full-length narrative? And how did you adapt your workflow to meet them?
Um, I think the thing is, when I'm doing like commercials and stuff like that, the speed of doing them, and you get like the speed of doing them is so fast, and you have to train your head, you train your idea and the thing to move so quickly. Okay. Also, you get thrown all the toys because there's lots of money in those kind of commercials and stuff like that. You get, oh, you want a steady cam? Oh, you want a crane? Oh, you want you want robots? Yeah, like here. And I think the thing that's different here is the length of time that I had to try and figure out. Okay. Um, and then as soon as I immersed myself into it, I loved it because I had that time to do it and to really like focus in on creating the characters, creating the sets, and every single set, and the set is another character in the movie,
Mhm.
because you're stuck in this house for so long. Um, we had to create like every single corner had to feel different or something like that because we don't have the opportunity to cut away or do anything like that. We're in the movie, we're in the film, and we're relying on what's in front of us, and that was really challenging. But there's the thing is that it inspired me so much, and I loved it.
Yeah, nice. Um, so yeah, you are known for blending live action with strong post-production techniques, and obviously striking sound design. How did you leverage those strengths in obviously the movie, to build tension, especially in a remote safe house setting?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I walked into this and thought to myself, well, I didn't want to rely on that. I didn't want to rely on those aspects of making this movie. I didn't want to rely on my visual side or what I wanted to rely. My first and foremost focus was acting and the story.
Okay.
I didn't want to kind of come across as like a commercial director coming into that. I just and so I wanted to focus on that. I wanted to focus on the acting and I wanted to focus on the storyline and everything like that. And then I started building. Then I started putting in a little bit more of me, and there are scenes in it that aren't necessarily were scripted and stuff like that. But and also you've got these kind of fast moments and fast montages and everything there to really get that speed and that pace back into the movie that maybe and those are the bits that really I started like pushing my kind of like signatures in there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the outside scenes because they were like fast paced. There's like the pig, the scenery, and I was like, oh, and then it's back to the house. So yeah, I really saw that in you. Yeah, the whole isolation and paranoia. So the plot centers on criminals, hiding out together, and over time, suspicion and mistrust grows. What drew you to explore themes of loyalty, guilt, and paranoia in this kind of high pressure, enclosed environment? And what emotional, psychological beats were most important to you to get right?
Well, you know, I came from I saw the idea as I saw the idea in this photo album in this about the Drake train robbery, and I saw and in it I had all the photos of this of a house, of where they hid out in this house and everything like that. And what drew me to that what went on in this house for that time. That's what, because everyone knows the Great Train Robbery, the story before and the story after. And this film is not the Great Train Robbery at all. But what it is what I took from it, that moment was like, well, the pictures of this house looked like a normal house. It looked like
Mm.
someone had lived. It looked like there was flowery wallpaper, there was, and that sort of stuff. So what I wanted to do was really create, I go in there and create that world, and from that, I was like on the border. We kind of like we weren't. It's not horror at all in everything, but there is a feeling of menace, and there's a feeling of kind of unnaturalness and everything like that, and that we
Yeah,
kind of wrapped up in everything, to give it that, to keep going that pace and to keep that paranoia going and everything like that. And also everything, every single kind of thing that we, even down to where they were sitting, even down to, the blocking of them and everything. You had Tien in the middle, and you had Eddie and Sam on both sides. It's like good and evil, like
mm,
chipping away this the innocence in the middle. So everything was thought about and put onto camera.
yeah. And I really felt that because it was meant to be a safe house for them, but
Mm.
there was no safeness. And where you live, there's always a room that you have that you feel this is uncomfortable. And I felt that in that house, there was no room that they could just escape to. Every room
No,
was evil. Um,
yes.
I
And I,
felt.
and I think that the house is meant to feel like there's been hundreds of people through that house,
Mm,
and I think that, but also, looking for the location and looking for that house, I wanted to find the most barren wilderness house I could. And we found this one on Dartmoor, and it was an old rabbit farm where they used to groom, like, do rabbits and stuff like that. And it
mhm.
was and you couldn't see any. There's no pylons, there's no houses, there's no buildings, there's no lights at night, there's no nothing around there. And that's what I wanted. I really wanted to find that location to add to that suspicion and that
Yeah,
menace.
yeah, it was super creepy. The film obviously features a strong ensemble. What was your casting process like? How did you decide which actors would best embody the conflicting tensions in the storyline?
Well, Eddie, I had Eddie when we got this, when we'd finished the script and everything like that. I had Eddie in mind, and Eddie, like, but I didn't obviously know if Eddie was going to go and, would do it. But he read it and he came back very quickly, and it was funny because, Eddie's from the East End, and he's, and he grew up with around those kind of gangsters, that we depict in this film. And he said the thing that drew him to this was that we weren't glamorizing them, that we were actually trying to touch their feelings a little bit and get a little bit, understanding them inside a little bit. And I think that that's what this whole film is about, like maybe more about what's going on inside their head than what's going out on physically.
Yeah,
I think that Eddie is like the stone in the middle here that literally comes. And I think so when we had Eddie, that obviously that attracted, Tien came, we were casting, and Tien just like, we were drawn to him straight away because, he was just, it's a very hard role for Tian, because it was just like we had these huge monologues and he had to sit there, but he is the anchor of the everything. He is the one, the innocence that they're trying to put, to take control of. And then Byrne came on, and Byrne's character was really great to work with. I mean, we literally came up with him in 15 minutes. We kind of described him, and we understood him, and it was more about the movement of his body and the movement of him, and that was really fun to work with and everything. And
yeah,
then actually Sam was the last to come on. And obviously Sam is he's such a great actor, and he's such a great, um and I needed to kind of mess him up a little bit, so I kind of described to the hair and makeup, like, I want him to look like rats had been eating his hair a little bit and everything like that, and I wanted to kind of like break him down a little bit, and he just shone. I thought, I mean, I love him in the movie, and he's just, so I honestly, I was very, very lucky the cast I got, and Rory I worked with before, and he was just, and obviously, he's just one of the best at the moment, in England, and Suki was just a pleasure to work with too.
Yeah. Sam's character really, I feel like I was waiting for maybe a side to him to come out. And when it didn't, I was like, okay, stop expecting it. It's not
Yeah.
coming out. It's not good whatsoever.
Well, actually, he did have another monologue in it actually, which is actually but the thing is that he says things in it. He says things out throughout the movie that are actually quite surprising. He's actually quite, you can see that he's a very complex character, and his psychopathicness. Yeah, okay, he's that psychopathicness, but there's a lot to him. I think there's a lot of complex into him, and yeah. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, so for thrillers set mostly in a single location, with character dynamics holding much of the tension, obviously pacing is key. How did you approach the rhythm of the film? For instance, when to let the scenes breathe, when to build, when to kind of snap. What are the scenes that were hardest to balance? What were the scenes that were hardest to balance in terms of pacing?
Well, everything in the house was hard to balance because you're in these kind of like very kind of close knit kind of like environments, and so once we were in the house, it was really tricky to get that balance and get that rhythm working. Um, Obviously the soundtrack starts to help in the and the kind of the those kind of montages kind of help, but I think it was really tricky to kind of really work, and it was there's a scene in it called scene 62, which is like the one scene that they're sitting around that the table, and they're discussing what to do, or what's going to happen and what they're going to do, and that took I shot that twice actually, because I wanted to do it again, and also like they an editing process was quite tricky because it was just we couldn't get it quite right, and then in the end, we just cut the end off, and it worked super well because it just like left us in this limbo. And I think that that's really kind of it is to make this chamber piece. It's really hard to make a chamber piece because you don't really understand the complexity of it, because in most films well, okay, you cut to this location, or cut to that location, or cut to a different character in a different location, so that natural rhythm without going. But when you're in the same house doing the same thing, it's really tricky. So to keep it going was really tricky, but we found a way. We found it, and basically, I always came back and relied on the acting basically, because it was that
Yeah,
was
of course, yeah. Given your background, how significant was sound design, and music in shaping the film's mood and emotional states? How much collaboration was there with Peter Raven and others
yeah.
to create that sonic landscape?
Okay, so Peter was amazing. I mean, and I learned a lot from Peter. Normally what I do, I'm dealing with a 30-second or a minute piece, or with that sort of thing. So to sit in this room with the Twickenham sound crew and a sound team, and they were just phenomenal. I must admit, they have to say they were phenomenal. Just to sit in the room and just work with them and design it was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure, and it was just to create the sound design, and it was just we had to we literally, what does this house sound like? Let's take the actors out. What does it sound like? And we wanted this little bit of creepiness, this little darkness going on in it, and we needed that house to talk. We wanted it to talk. We wanted to feel like there were other people in that room talking, not just whispering, and just feeling that there's it's like creaking, and floorboards creaking and everything like that. And we really designed it to move to because it was a character, and it was that, and the music was just what Peter did was amazing too. Was he did he came in, and he kept everybody in the room, you know,
Mhm.
and he really worked his magic and really created this on these pieces that just that created the weirdness and the kind of the eccentricity of it,
Mm.
but also let where it needed to breathe, it needed to breathe, and when there's a bit of emotion, he lent it, and that was amazing.
Yeah, well, that's great. That is all I have time for, but it's been an absolute pleasure. You kind of
Well,
gave
thank
me
you.
PTSD of living back at uni with a bunch of random strangers and people that I liked and
I
I
hope your dad enjoys it, because it's like it's a movie that has the taste. I had it like those 70s movies and stuff like that I grew up on. So
Yeah, definitely. He's a big Western fan, so it will remind him of like when the bandits used to hide away and
I'm
yeah.
a big Western fan too. I'm a huge Western fan and a huge samurai movie fan too. So it's like,
Oh, it's been
so
absolutely. Thank you so much for
yeah,
your time.
yeah.
Congrats again.
And congratulations on the new name,
Thank
Sisters and
you.
Brothers.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.